She survived that trip, or she died?
She died out there.
She died out there.
Okay.
Because I can remember.
And of course, my dad was only 3 years old, so he never knew her really. They moved back to Vandergrift, lived there for quite a long while, but they moved so often. Pick up and go, pick up and go. My dad ended up going to 8 different schools, moved schools 12 different times to go to 8th grades.
Wow.
Oh my.
Why did they move so often?
My mother says my grandfather was always looking for Emma. But anyhow, have these 3 children at home, need a housekeeper. You hired Lola Shellhammer Klingenschmidt. She had been married a very short period of time. She was pregnant and her husband drowned.
Oh my.
At age 40. Now, my grandfather hired Lola as a housekeeper. In those days, it was a no-no to have a single woman, a married man with children to live in the same house. Today it'd be, oh, hey, that's great.
That's right. Yeah.
But anyway, it turned out that they went to Baltimore, Maryland, and got married. Now, there's pictures here somewhere of that.
Hang on.
My daughter had it, and I don't know who she gave it to, but she didn't want it.
Okay, here's
Yes.
this.
Not a bad looking fella.
No, it says John Hester's first
I'll tell you
wife.
something else about that man. If you found the picture, and you'll find it in the computer, Brother Marlin built 3 houses on Irving Street in Vandergrift, side by side. Jean was born and raised in those houses.
Oh yeah.
You're
Yeah.
kidding.
We're just all related, isn't that what they say? We're all related anyway.
Well, don't go back too far.
That's weird.
But it is.
I got a date.
More of it. I have a daughter who wants to move all the time. My brother Cliff moved more. He lived in more houses than I've been in.
Really?
Cliff, yes, I remember that.
And
Do you want something? Nothing?
so, anyway, I can remember your grandparents, or your parents, your grandparents, lived in Compromise Street in Pittsburgh.
I remember that.
Nice.
I remember hearing that.
My dad
See,
said
it's all
they-
coming back when you hear it. Yeah.
My dad said they was compromising whether they called it a street or an alley. Because of a very steep hillside.
Yep, I remember Mom talking about that really steep hill. She pointed it out one time going down to Pittsburgh.
What?
My mother pointed it out one time to me when we were going to Pittsburgh.
Well, I don't know if you can see it from down on the highway, but it was off of Federal Street.
On
Up
the
on the
north
hill.
side.
But anyhow, they lived on the left-hand side going back in on the street, and I think it was a dead-end street, I can't remember. And the stones would fall off the hillside and run up against the house. They moved someplace else, and they moved back on the opposite side of the street, where you walked in the street level, you went down a flight of stairs to the kitchen or whatever, went down another flight of stairs to get on the porch.
Oh, wow.
That's how steep it was. Now, your Glenn, your Uncle Glenn, he was a ham radio operator,
Yep, I remember that.
and he loved it. Now they would give him money to go buy a new pair of shoes. He would go to the radio
Yep.
store and buy parts for the radio.
Aw.
And I loved to get down there and get on it with him. But he joined the state Guard of some fashion. I can't recall what it was called in those days. He had a big old car, and he'd drive it back and forth Fort Meade, Maryland to Pittsburgh when he was in activated service. And he'd load up with people and take them back and forth. Paid money. Except he had a wreck. Don't you ever heard that one or not? There's people who got very badly injured or killed. I can't remember which. He immediately transferred into the regular army. Transferred from the regular army into the Air Corps. That time, the Air Corps was part of the Army. Not the U.S. Air Force like it is today. It makes me angry when they say, here it is, the United States Air Force. It's not the Air Force, it's the Air Corps. But anyway, All my hollering doesn't do a bit of good. But anyway, then he ended up being the radio operator on the Central Flying Training Command General's plane, all during World War II. Never signed any contract. Smart man, very smart. And every time he would come back, he would fly back. He wouldn't drive back. He'd fly in for a couple of days and then disappear again. He didn't want to be caught because he didn't know how long this thing was going to be on the shores. But he would fly, and then he would generally come and visit me for whatever reason. I guess because I took an interest in his radio.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's about all. Oh yes, and the last I heard is he died from a stroke. His wife wrote me a letter. Mary wrote me a letter and said that told me the situation, which was sad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we never got to see
I
him.
know.
No, let's go from there now.
He was always one of our favorite uncles. He would come in and he always paid a lot of...
I'm trying to remember where I left off.
Where did you work at?
Allegheny Road.
That's what I thought. You used to live in Vandergrift?
Nope, never
No?
did.
Who lived in Vandergrift?
Me.
You did.
No, I worked at U.S. Steel in Vanderbilt for 8.5 years.
Okay.
I learned my trade there, a machinist by trade. I left there on the first day of April. I went to work at Allegheny on the first day of April in 1954. And 1st of April of 1960, I was moved to Baghdad in charge of all the mechanical installation of the Baghdad plant. It was a brand new plant. We started operation in September of that year. And it's still going today.
And where did you live when you worked there?
Where did we live there? Vanderbilt. Well, let's see. First married, we lived in Leechburg on Main Street. And we moved to Winos Crossroads. Winos Crossroads back out here.
So you moved around too.
Well, when you're young and you can't find a place to live. After World War II, there was no open houses. So we moved out here. The biggest mistake I ever made was moving out here. And so we put up.
Why?
No house is big enough for 2 women.
No.
True.
And that doesn't involve me.
Yeah, that was before her.
Yeah, long before Jean. Then we moved back into Leechburg on Main Street again, so that my daughter Cindy, Lucinda, could start school. Well, I wish she'd waited a year, but it wasn't important. And then we had to move from there. We went up on the hill onto Wallace Avenue and lived up there for 50-some years. We rented a house for 1 year and I bought it. And I've done a lot of work in it, had a lot of work done. And so both girls graduated from Leechburg. Cindy in 1965.
Same age.
She was an honor student, one of the top 10. 69, Susan graduated. She was a little higher in class than her sister was. And they both sent them to college. Cindy went to Clarion for a couple of years, got married, and moved to Purdue and finished up in Purdue while her husband was going for his doctorate. Sue went to Grove City. She loved it. Still, she'll be back up here in the 1st of October for homecoming and her class reunion.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
She's big up there. You say the name Susan Knappenberger or Appleton. They'll know who you're
Oh
talking
yeah.
about. Now, where am I going here now? Her grandfather built this house up here where Smiths bought it. Smiths bought it from them. But I don't know where all they lived. I can remember pictures. They lived on the old what we call the Shrewsbury Cutoff. It's now called Williams Road.
which is
That's
right up here.
Yeah, right off.
If you come out the end of Indian Hill, turn
Oh,
left,
okay.
be the first road to the right.
Go out there a short distance to the place that's down here. They call it the Cook's place now. I don't know why. I think Cook's lived there after that. They moved in out there once or twice. They lived over in Butler County and Township for a while. I just can't remember where all they did.
They lived over in South Buffalo on what was 28 at the time. It's now
128.
Yeah, they used to live over there, and they built that house, right? And then I don't even remember that. I just remember when they lived in Vandergrift. They lived in 151 Jefferson Avenue in Vandergrift, and that's the house I remembered.
Well,
Well, then, Effie and Mac lived on Jefferson Avenue.
Yeah, that's who we're talking about. Yeah.
Okay, see, my mom lived upstairs from them.
Oh, she
Who
did?
was your mom?
Yes.
Myrtle.
Really? Myrtle Black. We love Myrtle Black.
Yeah, that's your mom.
Myrtle Black and Mary White, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Mary, what was the
Oh.
step?
Garmin.
Garmin, yeah. Oh, Myrtle and
Yes.
Mary.
They lived there for years. That was your mother.
now if you want to hear
It's
something,
so weird how everyone's all.
you want to hear something strange. Her aunt and uncle owned the farm going up there at Sabelli and DK now. Going up the road,
Who?
Oh, Burkett's.
Burkett's Farm.
Burkett's old farm.
My
Okay.
aunt said
Not a
Yeah.
place you want to visit, just pass by. Look at it, don't go.
And I worked for Clyde 2 different summers. Got 50 cents a day to one time, and next year I got a big raise, got $1 a
Oh,
day.
yeah, that was double. That was pretty good.
Oh,
Now
God.
they sold that, and my dad owned a little place on down the road here, and they bought that. That's how Gene and I keep bumping into each other. Our mothers worked together in an industrial home for crippled children. Okay. So you don't know where you're going. You don't know where you come from.
No.
Well, how did your mother end up living with Grandma and Grandpa?
Okay, she sold the house on Irving Street. But she never liked that house. She wanted to be downtown. And the kids were all gone. And she had to more or less start over. So she lived in apartments and things like that. When Effie and Mac told her that they were buying this house on Jefferson Avenue, I'm going to make apartments out of it. And that's when she got her foot in the door there. And I don't know what happened, but my mother had difficulty no matter where she went or who she lived with. It only was about this long.
Well, now let's get back to
She lived there a long time.
Yes, she did.
Well, it may have been a long time, but what I mean is she had like 4-wall fever. Let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
But she had the bigger apartment,
Yes,
right?
she
And
did.
Mary had the one single room. And she was there a long time. I mean, they were there like, from
Well,
what I
Mary-
remember, the whole time they were
Mary-
there
Mary-
almost.
Oh, yeah, Mary did get married.
Did she?
She married a man that she had known when she was a young girl. And the last time I knew anything, and that's been a long time now, they were in California. But and his name was Lace. And I don't know what.
now your great grandmother, Mrs. Reed, Matilda.
Okay.
Remember her in church so well.
I remember the name.
She would come to church with McLaughlins, which was, of course, Louise McLaughlin was Louise Reed McLaughlin.
Yeah.
Hence, Robert Orr.
Yep, Aunt Louise.
She was just a little tiny thing, too. You know, we'd stop up there and buy eggs and bring a dozen eggs home from there and all this good stuff. And that's the way it was in those days.
These are reunions. Might all be the same one, I'm sure. The reunion, were they all the same reunion? I'll show you in a minute.
I don't know what you're talking about at this point.
I'll show you.
Oh, that one.
My dad was John Richards. That's what
Which is related to him how? How he was his brother?
Yeah.
Okay.
My dad was the oldest, he was the youngest.
Now you have to realize that my mother had this thing about, John Richards. It wasn't John Richards. It was John Richards because her maiden name was Richards.
Oh.
They did do a lot of that.
Robertson.
This here is my Uncle Joe.
Mary.
Mary Robertson.
Show her her grandfather. You had pointed Mac out.
My goodness. Look how many's in that picture.
Yeah.
See all those heads in there.
He's always dressed to the T.
That was the
Every picture you ever
siblings.
see of him, he's always
Five
dressed up.
siblings.
Daniel, you said,
Hard to
was
tell.
the one that always.
Daniel.
Him.
Daniel was
This one
what?
here, he's always dressed nice with his
Now,
bow tie.
the one that's always kind of slovenly, it was Samuel Augustus.
Is he in
I love
there?
that name, Samuel
Yeah.
Augustus. That
That's
sounds
the
so
middle
neat.
one.
That's him.
It does. It sounds really
Very. Yes, very distinct.
He looked pretty neat there.
He still exists out around Rogers Fording. Spring Church.
Okay.
So, that
Yeah, I
area.
love that picture.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so neat.
And one of these fellows, one of his children, grandchildren, worked for me. Paul P.U. Knappenberger.
What a name. No, that's awful.
Hungerford.
P.U. Oh, wow. That's a unique name.
And now Lucy, Lucinda,
Yeah, they're all.
she was married to a Klingesmith.
That's where the Klingesmiths come in.
Wow.
And they had a
He
store
was-
at Gertie.
Hmm?
They had a store, didn't they?
What?
They had a
Klingesmiths.
store.
Oh.
Oh no, it's her son,
Oh, okay.
Johnny,
It's a son. Okay.
that going down to Mateer. She lost her husband. He was a veteran of the Civil War. And she was still in her mourning clothes when her brother Daniel died up at Oak Ridge, Pennsylvania. Where Oak Ridge is at?
No, I don't know where that's at either.
If you go into New Bethlehem and turn right and start going up towards that direction,
Okay.
got a little town of Hawthorne.
Okay,
I've
yeah.
heard of it.
I've been to
Cross
Hawthorne.
over the bridge there and go over. That's
Okay, I know where you're talking about.
now. Gene and I was up there looking one time trying to find a house, a picture of a house we had, and we didn't know whether it was up around Belknap, where Daniel had been postmaster at one time, or whether it was on up there. So we drove around for hours and we
Couldn't find anything.
Couldn't find anything. We come to the conclusion that it was a picture taken by the photographer, and they used it for recording who wanted a picture or something. That's the only thing we can figure out. But we never did find it. But Henry, that's
The
the one
names
on the
are on the
other
back
end.
if you can.
Henry's
My
on the
dad
other
put
end.
those on there so we'd know.
He was hit by Dr. Lace way back when in Vandergrift on Grand Avenue, and he died from the accident sometime later.
Oh, wow.
Now his family settled in around Apollo.
What was his name?
Henry Clay
Henry.
Knappenberger.
Okay, I've heard of Henry Clay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've heard that
No.
name.
Probably from Henry Clay and Lucille.
The,
Oh, maybe.